I've been reading this book. It's the Autobiography of Malcolm X. And I'm not gonna lie, like that shit has drastically just changed how I feel about a lot of things. For starters, right? In school, I feel like the lesson was kind of simple, right? It's Martin Luther King is a good guy. He's nonviolent. We seen I Have a Dream. I think in school they kind of made Malcolm seem like he was the bad guy. It's like, oh, Malcolm's all about violence. I feel like they kind of presented him as someone who advocated just straight for violence. That's it. And maybe, a point of it too could be that, in school I wasn't really paying attention, right? I didn't really give a fuck because I was at that age where I felt like it didn't matter. But like revisiting some of this stuff as an adult is fucking insane, bro. Like, they presented Malcolm X as someone who just advocates for violence, period. That's it. And now that I've been reading his autobiography and like looking back at some of his past speeches, it's like, damn, like they really painted him out to be a separatist who hated white people. And I don't think that's what he was on for real. I really don't. Like he wasn't this like scary alternative to Malcolm X, to not Malcolm X, to Martin Luther King that we should be scared of. If anything, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the stuff that he was talking about like makes perfect sense. What do they say? If you ever want to hide something from people, you put it in a book. So it's like, I understand why people have this misconception, but that shit sucks, and I wish it wasn't like that. That's the thing about reading the actual biography, right? Like, you hear his sound, you hear his voice, not just a clip, not just a soundbite. You get me? So yeah, it's just crazy to think about. In school, they just made it seem like he was just this evil guy who just wanted to fight and do all this extra stuff. In one of his speeches, I can't remember which one it was, but he was just talking about how, like, what revolution do you know of that was nonviolent? Like the American Revolution, the Haiti Revolution, like, all those revolutions where things actually changed, it was because they forced it, not because they said please. Even Martin Luther King said that. Towards the end of his life, he was like, yeah, I feel like I got us a seat at the table, but not no real power, which is insane. You can look that up. He actually did say that. So, yeah, this book has been crazy as fuck. I'm not gonna lie, and it's really changing how I feel about shit. So, first of all, Malcolm didn't worship violence. He saw it as a tool, something, a logical response, something that actually gets things done. Like, he wasn't trying to say, oh, let's go out into the street and just fight for no reason. Like, there was a purpose to the madness, He said that America is fundamentally a violent society. It was built on the violence of slavery, maintained by the violence of lynch mobs and police brutality. He even said the state holds a monopoly on violence. Like, are we fucking serious? They use it to enforce a system that's not even fair for real. One of his most famous lines, he even said, by any means necessary. And to be honest, yes, he did say that, but that wasn't a call to start riots for no reason. It was more of a declaration of a right to self-defend. You feel me? Like, you have to be able to defend yourself. That's one of the key pieces of life. He said, I don't call it violence when it's self-defense. I call it intelligence. Like, facts. Are we just going to sit here and let these people hit us? Like, no. And I feel like that's what gets lost in translation, right? If a man comes to your house and attacks you, you have the right to defend yourself. So why doesn't an entire community have the right to defend itself from attack? He wasn't advocating for offensive violence. He was just demanding for the right to counter violence in the face of unchecked oppression. He framed it as a human right, like, it's brutal, it's uncomfortable, but it's logic. It's not mindless, it's strategic. It's about shifting the power calculus. The idea was that if the black community could credibly say, if you hit us, we will hit you back hard, then maybe the cost of violence would make the oppressor think twice. All I'm saying, guys. So it's just kind of crazy to think about. Definitely been going back and listening to some of his past speeches, just because too, a lot of things do get lost in translation, like all the way, even now, so definitely never take things at face value. Do your own research and go listen to his speech before you decide what type of guy he was. You get me? So yeah, I think one of the worst lies they told us about Malcolm X was that he was static, that he was born angry and died angry. Like, to be honest, This autobiography, above all else, I would say it's like the story of radical, relentless evolution. Like, let's not forget, bro started off in jail. You feel me? Like, like he started off as a hustler, literally, a hustler named Detroit Red. It wasn't until he went to jail that he started reading, and then he started becoming a better version of himself. Yeah, he went to jail, started reading the dictionary, and just turned himself into a better person. I think the real turning point in his story was when he took the pilgrimage to Mecca. I think then, when he saw all the different Muslims of all different colors, shapes, and sizes, he was like, damn, you know, maybe we can coexist. I think that's what really shattered his worldview. You know what I mean? And to be honest, this was the point in time where he was the most dangerous, because he started going around to other countries, meeting all these leaders, and instead of making what the U.S. looked like, instead of making the U.S. look like it was just race relations, I think him going to the other countries made it look like human rights instead of just civil rights. I think that's when he began to kind of distinguish between like the racist system and then like individual white people. You know, like he started talking about class solidarity, and then started linking the struggle of Black Americans with human rights struggles globally. He basically went from the enemy is the white man to the enemy is oppression, injustice, and exploitation. And this kind of evolution is literally why they killed him. Literally, that's why they killed him. He was getting way too powerful. Not because he was too violent or or all this other stuff, but he was really too unifying, I would say. Too willing to build with other people. You know, what other world leader was really going around to other countries trying to unite Black people around the world? Like, shit, if I was the oppressor, I would have killed him too. So, it's just crazy to think about, guys. Like, this is insane. I literally picked this up for fun. Like, okay, yeah. Reading this, and mind you, I'm like at like the third part. Alright, I think it changed me in a few key ways, right? So, the first way it changed me, I would say, it taught me to question the good versus bad narrative, right? Like, people love to just simplify things into good versus bad. Like, systems in power love to give us acceptable and unacceptable dissenters. They sanitize the acceptable ones like MLK, and they demonize the unacceptable ones. And I think it's just a trick kind of to control the boundaries of everyone, right? Divide and conquer. Like, we say that shit all the time, but I swear to God, it's so, like, it works. That's why they keep using it. That's why they've been using it. I think another thing it showed me was kind of just the power of relentless learning. You know, like, Malcolm's entire life was education. Prison was his university. Debate sharpened his ideas. Travel exploded his ideas, gave him a worldview. You know, I think what made him powerful is that he always seek the truth, even when it was admitting that he was wrong. I think it also helped me see that self-defense is a legitimate political concept. Facts. Like, it made me think, is this violence justified? Like, who gets to define violence? And is the violence of a system that deprives people of housing, food, and safety less violent than a brick through the window? I don't think so. But, yeah, I feel like these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves, right? Like, he wasn't a prophet or anything, but, you know, he was a critical thinker, and I have to give him that, for sure. For sure. And it's just crazy how they'd rather have us remember him as an angry Black man than the philosopher, strategist, evolving human that he was. So, I don't know. It's just a crazy little realization that I came into recently. I was like, what the fuck? But, yeah, never take things at face value. Definitely always do your own research. And I would say, if I was y'all, get into reading autobiographies, because it does kind of help you understand how people got out their situations and lived their lives, and you can learn a lot from it. You know, I just hate how they simplified all this complex stuff into just, oh, he was just mad and he just wanted to fight. Like, no, they took his early, most, crazy phases and froze him in that and kind of erased the journey for real. Like I said, learning about this in school, I didn't learn any of this in school, even though we talked about it, right? They don't want us to see the man who in the end was moving towards a vision of human rights that transcended race. Like, a man murdered not for his hate, but for the threat of his evolving love and solidarity. That shit is insane, bro. if you take anything from this video, just let it be this: read for yourself, go to the source, and don't let the watered down version of events they teach you in school shape your worldview. I swear to God, you'll be fucked up, just like how I was. I'm not gonna lie. The Autobiography of Malcolm X isn't just a history book. It's a manual on how to evolve critically, how to be fearless, you feel me? And how to see a system full of lies. And challenge that shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, literally, I'm telling you, like, I want to save the world now. After reading this book, like, they dead lied to us about Malcolm X, and it's crazy. And I understand why they did that. Literally, they try to keep us in a box. Like, no, fuck that. So, yeah. Sorry, I just had a rant about that shit. Because I'm like, yo. I don't know, guys. But, yeah, be safe.